Back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. Our guest, News Channel 5 legal analyst Nick Leonardo. The question of defense, just for a refresher, folks who maybe have not followed this case as closely, it was basically Michael Mosley was there with some people. The three that were involved, that two of whom were killed, were there as well at this bar. There was maybe an interaction. They started arguing inside the bar. There may have been a shoving, pushing, maybe a punch there. One group left. Mosley then left afterward. They were outside, and the question was, as they came out, was Mosley planning to attack? Was the three that he had the interaction with inside the bar waiting for him? And the idea, at least talking to Justin Johnson at what he saw, at some point Mosley comes out, and I don't know if there's more words, but then these three surround Mosley. And at that point, I'm not clear if one shoved the other or whatever, but then ultimately it got into it and the stabbings occurred. And the video is supposed to show this, whether or not, there is self-defense. If Mosley's small and three big guys are being threatening to him, is that justified for him to go to that extreme to stab them all in the chest? Or, if they're just talking to him and they're around him talking trash or whatever, or he's talking trash to them, that's not justification for violence. Where does the line draw where you say, okay, now I can understand why he lashed out with a knife?
Well, so what the jury would have to determine is there a reasonable belief on behalf of the accused that it was imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, and that's imminent, okay, right then and there.
I could see being in that situation. I got a smart mouth sometimes. Some big dude gets mad. I don't think he's going to kill me. I think I might get punched, but I'm not worried about dying.
Well, but the difference is, let's say that Mr. Mosley's lying in wait. Let's say he's out there, if you're really scared of someone, right? You're going to take off, you're going to get away, you're going to do everything you can to end that encounter and take off running. But if let's say he's lying in wait because of something of that nature, then obviously that could be premeditated. That could be evidence of premeditation.
Let's say he knows, maybe he sees as he's walking out, and he sees them out there. So he gets his blade, which, by the way, I don't know if it's ever been recovered, but there's no question that he was involved with the stabbing. We know it's him. This isn't a question of who did it. It's why did he do it. And let's say he sees them and he goes, all right, they're about to get theirs. And he goes out with his knife ready to go, and maybe he says something to them that brings them over to him.
That's exactly right.
Okay, now let's say they don't really act it but surround him, and then he just goes. That, to me, is not self-defense.
No, I would agree, and I think both of these decedents, graduated from Battleground Academy, athletes, and so, it would be interesting to see what that video shows. It seems like I had heard something back when this happened, maybe about lying in wait, or maybe he was waiting on.
Or they were maybe waiting for him to come out.
Yeah,
See,
and that's a possibility, too. That's a possibility, and if they were waiting and he comes out, you only need to use the force that is necessary to dispel the threat. Okay, and so if you had a pocket knife or a knife on you, and there's three athletes around you, and they come at you, then you could see that maybe that was self-defense. Okay, but if you are lying in wait, or if it's the opposite, then I think he's got problems there, especially if he in any way helped elevate this conflict prior to this occurring.
And keep in mind, this was not just the three of them and him and video. The video is going to be key. But he had people with him. There were a lot of witnesses, including the one young man who survived the stabbing. So it's going to be a combination of what witnesses say and what the video shows.
And it's also important to note that this one young man who did survive, that's going to be a very tough witness for the defense. Okay, because typically you have a situation of murder, you've got people are dead, and you've got the defendant who is the last person standing, and not a lot of witnesses maybe to what happened, and so it's different than if you have a survivor. Okay, and in this case, the survivor can talk about, he's going to talk about what occurred, okay, and what was said, and and tell what happened in a first-person context. Then it's going to be more than the video. Somebody who could explain what is happening in the video because they were right there.
Yeah. All right. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but clearly the prosecution thinks this is first-degree murder, and one count of attempted first-degree murder. Mosley saying he'll plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter, which of course was...
I'm sure he would. He's facing first-degree murder.
Exactly. Denied right off the bat on that. So let's take a call. I think we have Vicki Hambrick on. She may have a question or comment. She calls in quite often on various cases. Of course, her son was involved in one. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning. I know you're going to hang up on me.
Well, no, I won't. No.
I want to let you know that I didn't appreciate how y'all did that towards my son about me getting justice, and all y'all rigged my case up, and there's more into this about my son than what y'all saying, and I know more.
You do know more.
And y'all don't want me, y'all don't want me to speak out and say what really went on.
No, listen, you're welcome to, if you want to do an interview with me, we'll come talk. Of course, Vicky Hambrick's son is Daniel Hambrick, and that was the high-profile case that did not go to trial with Andrew Delkey. Glenn Funk was on, and she called in. She's still very angry at the general for choosing not to go to trial on that case. And I think, I understand. She's still very hurt over it. But when she calls in, she doesn't ask a question or get to a straight point. She says she has all these different points she wants to discuss. And I'll be glad to do an interview with her on a follow story on this if she has some new steps she wants to take. But I mean, she's obviously still very hurt over the loss of her son and was not satisfied with what happened to Delkey.
Well, and my heart goes out to her as well. I mean, Ms. Hambrick, it's a horrible, tragic loss. But I will say that Ms. Hambrick has a great attorney in Joy Kimbrough, who I think very highly of. And if that occurred the way it did, and the family wasn't apprised of the offer that was made by the District Attorney General, then that's a horrific thing. I mean, that family spent their entire time, being told by the state of Tennessee that we're going for first-degree murder, 51 years in jail, the loss of your son's life's worth 51 years. And then to settle it like that is definitely shocking in a lot of ways. And so
we were all set to go to gavel on that trial, and we were as stunned as anyone.
And I really would encourage Ms. Hambrick and come up here with Ms. Kimbrough, because I know that I would like to hear from you, more from you than what I heard in the courtroom that day. And I think the general public would like to hear from you as well. And I think your attorney would come, so I'd love to see them on a morning line or an open line to come and discuss.
We always take her call when she calls in, but then she gets angry, and we want to keep it clean. But she's welcome to come on or do an interview with me, or it would be great if she and her lawyer would like to come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one thing I observed about this, and I understand her anger at General Funk. Okay, I understand that. The way it was handled, and that, like you said, all along you think it's going to trial. But as angry as she is at this district attorney, I wonder if she or those who are upset about this stop to think for a moment, if Tory Johnson was the DA and not Glenn Funk, Delkey never would have been charged.
Maybe yes, maybe
well, no.
I mean,
we know for a fact that Tory Johnson was going to be a witness for Delkey, and he was going to testify to the fact that he did not believe that this was homicide.
Well, and from the district attorney's perspective, what they're going to say, what Glenn Funk has said, is that this is the first time that a police officer has ever gone to jail or been held accountable for killing someone in the line of duty like that, albeit it's not what we thought it was going to be as far as accountability, and that's what they're going to say, okay? And you have the Victims' Rights Amendment, okay? And that says that even though the district attorney is the person who makes the call on if they're going to settle a case, they're supposed to apprise the victim's family the entire way, okay? And so if they weren't aware that this case was going to be settled for manslaughter at, some 3 years at 30%, they should have been.
They should have been. I agree.
And it doesn't mean that anything would have been different.
Right.
I mean, General Funk, under the law, still has the ability to extend that offer, okay? But again, if that is the case, and I don't doubt that there was some miscommunication or no communication, because I believe that. But, again, doesn't change the fact that her son is gone.
Yeah.
And from her perspective, she doesn't feel like she got justice, and rightfully so, because she spent, a couple of years thinking that they were going to go for 51 years.
Yeah, and have her day in court at the very least.
But I would like to hear from her. I think a lot of people would.
If there's more stuff that she has, and she says there's new developments, or I'm not sure. I know there was a civil settlement with the city. I know that the criminal case against Delkey at this point is wrapped up. He agreed he's not going to appeal it. But if there's something more that's happening and she and her attorney want to talk about it, listen, I'm all for it, Vicky. You watch the show. She's called in for years, and be glad to do it in a setting where we go over what you want to talk about. You can have the whole show to talk about it.
Then she's got a good lawyer in Ms. Kimbrough.
So let us know on that, and you know how to reach me, and I know how to reach you. Listen, as far as the Waffle House shooting case moving forward, again, that's another one. We did gavel to gavel on Emmanuel Sampson, which was the church shooting in Antioch, and that came fairly quick. Why do you think the Waffle House shooting has taken so long to go to trial?
Well, so initially they found Judge Fishburne, who's one of the best judges we got here in Davidson County. He's been around a long time. He's up there in criminal court, and he found that he wasn't competent. Had him evaluated, found he wasn't competent to stand trial, if you'll remember, for a while. And so then they worked on this competency issue, and then the experts said, okay, now we do think that he's competent to stand trial, and so and being able to aid in his own defense. And so that was one delay, and he's got a great lawyer along, with Mr. Engel. I think Mr. John Wing is his lawyer, and or one of his lawyers. I think maybe it's a couple of them, but he's got a great lawyer. But I mean, I can't imagine what their defense is going to be. I mean, again, this is something that, unlike Emmanuel Sampson, this is something that is, what I understand, is caught on tape, right? I mean, there is a video of him in the Waffle House, naked or whatever, shooting the place up, and so you have eyewitnesses.
You have someone who disarmed him, of course. No, there's no, like the Emmanuel Sampson case at the church there in Antioch, there's no question about who did this. Zero. No question about who did this. So the only defense, and maybe you'll answer this when we come back from break, I think, is going to be insanity. And he went and had a mental evaluation at one point. And even if he is found guilty by reason of insanity, or not guilty by reason of insanity, that doesn't mean he's going to go free, does it?
No.
Hang on. We'll talk about that and let you explain how that plays out when we come back right after this.